Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm going to be doing a book review, and that book is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This book isn't out yet. It's coming out probably in a few weeks' time. I will link all the pre-order links down below. I will also link Mark's Twitter down below as well. And I was really excited about reading this book because I have read one of Mark Lawrence's trilogies, and that is the Broken Empire trilogy. Very, very grim, dark fantasy series that I really liked when I read it a few years back. And I really enjoyed Mark's writing in that trilogy, which I think was his debut trilogy, and I really, really loved it. And so when I heard about this book, it was very different, I think, in terms of kind of like plot and the way that it was described compared to his other series. He's written a lot of books. And so I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. Let's see if I gel with it. And overall, I enjoyed the book. I had issues with certain things, but the thing that I will say is that that was very much a Zara thing and not a Mark Lawrence thing. I think Mark Lawrence is an absolutely phenomenal writer. That being said, I don't think he will fit everybody's taste, and that's okay. And I think I have to be in a very specific mood when I read this type of writing. And I think when I started the book I was, but as I started to go through the book, my mood changed. And so I felt like I had to push through. And I think that maybe hindered my reading experience as well. So just bear that in mind. So without further ado, let's jump in. I'm not going to do a plot synopsis. Go ahead and Google that if you want to. I actually went into this not really knowing that much. I just knew that there was a library setting and I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. Apart from that though, I didn't know anything about it, and I think that's the best way to go into any book. So what did I like? I really like Mark Lawrence's writing. His writing is absolutely beautiful. It's quite academic, but it's also very accessible. It reads really beautifully, like really, really, really beautifully. I don't think it's the type of writing style that everyone will like. And I think his writing style, for me, is best read in like shorter books. I think the Broken Empire books were the perfect size. They're like 300, 400 pages. Like normal size books, normal font, whereas this new book is like 700 pages and it's like a huge book. It's like a pretty big book. It's not your normal standard size book. And so I just felt like by the time that I got to the middle, which is probably the same size as his first book, by the middle I was just starting to feel like the reading experience was not a chore. I feel like that's a bit extreme, but it did start to feel quite taxing on me personally. So I've given you the kind of upsides and the downsides of the writing. Really beautiful writing, but for me at least, much better enjoyed in smaller doses. The next thing that I'll talk about is the characters. We follow two perspectives, Lyvera and Eva. No idea if I said those right. Lyvera is a really interesting character. I really liked her arc. I really liked reading her perspectives way more than Eva. I actually really did not like Eva's perspective. This is always the difficulty with dual or multi-POV perspectives. If you don't like one of the characters and they're like half of the book, it's just going to impact your reading experience. And Lyvera was compelling, especially at the start and the middle. I think towards the end, I started to cool down on her as a person. And Eva, I did not like her sections. There's a lot of family drama related to Eva's part. I just was not that interested in it. I didn't really care for it. I didn't find it interesting. And so for me, their perspectives are pretty split. It's like 50-50, I would say. And I just did not like it. And so that meant that 50% of the book felt like a chore as well. I didn't connect with his character for one reason or another. I don't know what it was. It's just he didn't feel relatable to me for some reason. I don't know why. In terms of the plot is really interesting. I think there's a lot of mystery, and I think Mark does mystery really well in the sense that he always omits certain bits and we are always kept guessing, and I think that's something that he does exceptionally well. And we also get that in this book. There's this kind of mystery element, or many mystery elements actually, and they play a really critical part of the story. And as those mystery elements get revealed, or as we learn more about those mystery elements, it adds more to the suspense and the tension and the desire to want to learn more. So I think that's I think there's a few authors that do that well, but I think Lawrence is one of the few that does that exceptionally well. Like I feel like this is quite a core component of his books. I don't know, I haven't read any of his other series yet. I do really want to read Red Sister next, but I feel like this is going to be a recurring theme, and I think he's a master at it, like truly, truly a master at it. In terms of what didn't work for me, I already talked a little bit about the writing. I think the big part for me was that I didn't invest with half of the book because I didn't like one of the characters. I felt myself drifting off in places and just kind of having to push through, which is really unfortunate. I didn't really feel incentivized to keep reading all the time. Like, I want to be excited to read the book that I have next to my bed. Like, that's how I know I'm reading a book that I'm enjoying. And there were days where I kind of just didn't really feel that excited to read it. And it was mainly because I think of the fact that I didn't connect with Eva. The next thing is that I think the book is really long, and I think maybe slightly too long, especially given Mark's writing style. I just didn't really feel like we needed that many pages. I think it could have probably been cut down, especially because Mark is a very precise writer. Like, he doesn't waste words, and that's another thing that I love about his writing. It's very to the point, and that's what I kind of meant by academic. And yet reading that for 500-600 plus pages is too much, in my opinion. At least for me it is. The last thing that I will mention, that I kind of mentioned at the start because I want to caveat it heavily, is that I think if I had been in the right mood throughout the entirety of this book, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. My reading mood changes very quickly, and because it's such a big book, it was almost inevitable that it was going to happen. And because I also didn't like one of the characters, it was doubly inevitable that it was going to happen. So this, I think, is really a case of the book is good, but it just was not for me, or it was just not for me at this time. There were elements that were really strong. Like I said, I liked one of the characters. I think the plot was really interesting. The suspense was really good. I really like the setting and the world building as well. The way that Mark describes the library is absolutely phenomenal. And then there's these really cool sci-fi bits that he includes, but it just did not feel right for me. The writing, the character, you know, the secondary character, a few other bits and pieces that I've mentioned, which ultimately led me to not rating it as highly as I would have liked. I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars, which is still really solid. That's like a really solid rating. I really wish I could have given it like a 4 or 4.5 or maybe even a 5 stars. It had the potential at the start, but then it kind of went in directions that I personally did not like, but other people might enjoy. So just bear that in mind. Before I sign off on this review, I do want to read a few quotes because it is a very quotable book and I just really love Mark's writing, and I think you should all listen to a few quotes. All right, here we go. She often came to the labyrinth to read, both fiction, as Master Yu had suggested, and history as well. The latter more out of a sense of duty. The histories were dry, the fiction as if someone had pulled a still-beating heart from its cage of ribs and left it pulsing crimson on the page. Some had the stories that never happened, ones that merely sprang from the dreaming of some long-dead author, were more true than the histories that might be found on the opposite shelf. The stories, though set free on imagination's wings, had to make some kind of sense to prevent the reader's scoffs. Truth, though, didn't care a whit for making sense, and could ride roughshod over people's expectations. Lyvera also considered it uglier, crueler, and ultimately less satisfying. I think it's such a beautiful way to describe fiction. So the next one is a quote within the book. So at the start of each chapter, Lawrence references a quote from another piece of literature. And I'm going to read one that he highlighted. It's in the nature of humans to want to belong to a group, to want to be accepted, appreciated, and needed. What is most frightening about their kind are the sacrifices they are prepared to make in order to become part of such a tribe, clique, sect, sewing circle, cult, or book club. Reason and morality are often at the top of the list of what must be surrendered as part of the club fees. Truth becomes a collective property, an adaptable shield used to shelter the in-group from those outside. Dogs, on the other hand, are great. So good. I think I'll do one more. All right, here we go. Ivar closed his eyes and listened. Some silences stretch. The tension builds and builds again until the suddenness of the inevitable snap. That's the quiet which lies between people. Often silences fall like a heavy blanket, enduring so long that they become a second skin which can be punctured but never broken. Words are like wounds to such a silence. Quickly healed over, quickly forgotten, leaving no scar. The library silence was like that. Thick, ancient, the sediment of centuries settling back swiftly after any disturbance. And there we go. Let me know if you have read this book. I have seen quite a few folks get arcs for this book, so definitely drop me down a comment below. If you have any questions as well, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.